Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my last book unhaul of 2022. I don't think I've gotten rid of that many books this year, but I am officially out of room on my bookshelves, and I know you guys can't see it, but I literally have like 4 or 5 stacks of books right here that need to be addressed and go on my bookshelf somehow, somewhere. And I will be doing a bookshelf reorganization video at some point, so just be on the lookout for that. So as I was kind of going through my shelves, which are a hot mess right now, I pulled out a couple that I know that I'm not going to be reading, or I read and I'm not interested in keeping them. So I have about 10 books here and I'll tell you why I'm unhauling them. But before we go ahead and get on to the unhaul, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as well as the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I post new content. I post new videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, and sometimes other days throughout the week. Also, don't forget to check down the description box below for links to all of my social medias, my Buddy Read Discord, and my Patreon. The first books I'm going to be unhauling are the mass market paperbacks of The Vampire Lestat and The Queen of the Damned by Anne Rice. The reason that I wanted to unhaul them is because I wanted copies that matched my version of Interview with the Vampire. So this is one of the UK edition covers. So I was able to get the Vampire Lestat. Oh, that's Queen of the Damned. So I was able to get Queen of the Damned and the Vampire Lestat from Book Depository. So unfortunately, these books don't free up any space on my bookshelf, but I just don't need 2 copies of Queen of the Damned and the Vampire Lestat. So I'm happy to have a matching set though. The next book I'm unhauling is Nano by Robin Cook. I read this very recently and I have a full review about it. I gave this book 1 star. I disliked almost everything about it. And there's really no point in me keeping it. I picked up this book for a couple dollars used, so I really have no qualms about getting rid of it. And yeah, I just did not mesh with this book. Please check out my review. But I have 2 more books of his that I also bought used that I need to read, and I am willing to give them a chance. Just this one did not work for me. Next we have For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. This is the first book in the Wilderwood series, and I didn't do a full review on this book. I did talk about it in, I think, my November wrap-up, and I talked about why this book just missed the mark for me. I wanted to do a full review for it, but I realized that there was just not a lot I could talk about because I found this book very forgettable and just unremarkable, completely average in my personal opinion, and I really have no desire to continue with it. Just nothing about the story drew me towards it, but it is marketed as a Red Riding Hood retelling. There are bits of Red Riding Hood, I guess, in the story, but don't go into it expecting it to be that much like Red Riding Hood, because it's really not. It had a really dark, creepy forest that I thought was cool, but I just found this book really boring, and the protagonist dull, and the antagonist even more so. So I decided to just let it go. Next we have The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. This is a YA vampire type fantasy book, and I like Renee Ahdieh. I read The Wrath and the Dawn and The Rose and the Dagger several years ago, and I really did like it. But I started reading The Beautiful, and I really didn't like it. It follows a girl who goes to New Orleans and uncovers that there are vampires existing in New Orleans that are just wreaking havoc, and she's like investigating a serial murderer or a series of murders, and she just starts to learn about this underworld in New Orleans. So what spoke to me is, like, obviously vampires. I like vampires, and then the New Orleans settings just really reminded me of Anne Rice in Interview with the Vampire. But this just missed the mark for me. There was some things that I found extremely problematic that really just spoke to me the wrong way and just didn't sit right with me. And every time I thought to myself, I'm gonna go pick The Beautiful back up, I might not agree with things that she's communicating, but I can get past it, and it just put a bad taste in my mouth, and I decided that I'm not going to continue with the book. And I think the series is like 4 books in at this point, and I can't even get through the first one, so there's no point in keeping it. Next, we have The Queens of Venice Lear by Tessa Gratton. This is a fantasy retelling of King Lear. And the reason that I am unhauling this is because this book is way too slow. It is way too slow, and nothing happens. We're following these 3 daughters of Lear as they are essentially fighting for control of his kingdom. And each daughter, we get a different perspective, and they're all different. And I feel like I'm at halfway through the book and the characters are having the same exact conversations that they were having at the beginning of the book. The same conversations. Stop talking about the same thing. Move the plot forward. And I just got to halfway and I'm like, I'm just spinning in circles, like nothing's happening. And I will say that I found the characters a little bit hard to connect to. I don't know, that was probably just me. I really didn't connect to any of the characters. The writing is very pretty. She has very pretty prose, but it's to the point where it's too flowery. So I decided just to let this one go, and that means that I'm also unhauling Lady Hotspur, which is the, I guess, sequel or spinoff. I'm really not sure. I picked both of these up off a book outlet for a couple dollars, so I really don't care about getting rid of them, and I'll sell them to my used bookstore and get store credit. So DNFing Queens of Minas Lear and then not even trying Lady Hotspur. And lastly, we have The Last Romantics by Tara Conklin. Honestly, this is a literary fiction, just regular fiction family drama type book. And I mean, for any of you guys that have been watching my channel for any amount of time, how often do I pick up family dramas? How often do I pick up anything that is not sci-fi or fantasy or something along those lines? Not very often. It's just not a genre that I find interesting. I like speculative fiction. I like magic systems. I like complicated worlds. I live in this world. I don't want to escape into my same world. When I pick up a book, I want to go someplace else, some distant land where things are magical. So I don't know anything about this author. I'm sure this is a great book. I'm sure it's really popular. It's just not a genre that I read. Okay, you guys, that is it for my unhaul. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, or if you have unhauled any books recently, and I will see y'all in another video soon. Goodbye.